Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of George's GLP-1 Journey, where science meets real life, one injection and one meal, and one thoughtful conversation at a time. So if you're new to this channel, I welcome you. My name is George Logan, husband, dad, granddad, scientist, and someone working to make healthy aging a little more informed, a little more doable. And before we go any further, a quick reminder, I am not a medical professional. Everything in this series is for information and encouragement, not medical advice. So please talk with your doctor about what's right for your own health. And second, because this matters, GLP-1 medications are FDA-approved treatments for type 2 diabetes and for the chronic relapsing disease of obesity. Obesity is not a moral failing. It's not a lack of willpower. It's a medical condition deserving compassion and evidence-based care. Now, today's episode is the continuation of our special edition series, GLP-1s for Seniors. And in part one, which I hope you looked at, we looked at the first 5 things that GLP-1 users say they wish they knew before starting their journey. And the response has been incredible, so I thank you. And today we're going to dive into part 2, where we cover the next 5 insights, the ones that experienced users, clinicians, and the emerging science are pointing to again and again. And this is not to overwhelm you, but to prepare you, empower you, and to give you real confidence about what this journey can look like. And just like last time, we pulled from 3 places: the experience of thousands of users, the observations of medical professionals, and what the growing body of GLP-1 research is already telling us. So if you're already in a GLP-1, this will help you to navigate the road ahead with more clarity and less stress. And if you're still thinking about starting, this will give you the honest, balanced perspective you deserve. All right, my friends, let's jump right into part 2. Now let's look at something that can feel a little discouraging early on, but almost always gets better with time: digestive changes. So during the first weeks, your stomach and your intestines are essentially learning a brand new operating system. Food moves more slowly, hunger cues change, and your digestion can feel different. But across thousands of user reports and in clinical summaries, the pattern is very consistent. The first 4 to 8 weeks can feel the most noticeable. Some people experience slower digestion, mild bloating, burping, nausea, or what many describe as just feeling full all the time. But here's the reassuring part. For most users, these symptoms steadily decline as the body adapts. So by week 6 to 12, the majority of people report significant improvement. The stomach adjusts, the digestive rhythm stabilizes, and eating feels a lot more predictable again. And this matches the science perfectly. GLP-1 medications slow gastric emptying, but the effect becomes less intense the longer you're on the medication. Your body finds its new normal. And not everyone experiences disruptive digestive changes. Some people barely notice any difference at all. And that's important to highlight. Again, we hear more from people who struggle than from the many who don't. And for those who do feel it, users and clinicians agree on a few strategies that help quite dramatically, actually. Smaller, slower meals, staying upright after eating, warm liquids, some herbal teas, spacing meals apart, and avoiding the big problem foods like high fat or high sugar meals. So personally, my adjustments have been mild. A bit slower digestion at times, but nothing that interferes with my daily life. So what's the key takeaway? Digestive changes are real, but they get easier, often much easier, as the body adapts. Now let's talk about expectations, because this is one of the most important, most misunderstood parts of the GLP-1 journey. Weight loss is often slow, steady, and completely normal. When people first hear about GLP-1 medications, they often imagine rapid, dramatic weight loss, 5, 10, 15 pounds a month. And yes, there are a small percentage of users that lose weight very quickly, especially at higher doses, or people that have to lose a lot more weight to start. But when you look at thousands of reports from real people and the data from clinical studies, a different and very encouraging pattern shows up. Slow, consistent loss is actually the most common and the most sustainable. Many users see 1 to 2 pounds a week of loss, sometimes less, sometimes more, but always trending downward over the long term. And here's the key. Slow loss preserves muscle mass, supports better skin elasticity, and leads to healthier long-term outcomes. And clinical research backs this up. Rapid weight loss, regardless of the method, tends to pull more from muscle. Slow, steady loss protects your lean tissue and leads to better metabolic improvements. And not everyone experiences fast or dramatic drops. In fact, many people lose at a gentle, very manageable pace, and they end up with better overall results. And again, it's important to say this. Not everyone struggles and not everyone has major ups and downs. Some people simply lose gradually, comfortably, and consistently. And that's perfectly normal. My journey so far has been exactly that. Steady, predictable, and right around 2 pounds a week of loss. And that's an average. Sometimes up, sometimes down. And from everything I've seen, that seems to be the healthiest pattern for long-term success. So the message here is simple. Slow is not a problem. Slow is actually the plan. Slow is healthy. And slow is sustainable. Now let's talk about something that isn't discussed as often, but shows up consistently in both user reports and clinical observations. Emotional changes. For some people, the early weeks on GLP-1 medications comes with a sense of flatness, maybe a dip of motivation, a mild mood shifts, or even a little irritability. Not dramatic depression, just a subtle change in emotional tone. Almost like someone kind of turned the volume down a little too far. And again, not everyone experiences this. And many GLP-1 users feel emotionally steady or even better because they're sleeping better, they're eating better, and feeling more in control. But for those who do feel emotional shifts, there's some very real, very manageable explanations behind it. Clinically, we know that appetite changes and affects serotonin. Rapid nutritional changes can affect energy. Dehydration can actually mimic low mood, and lower blood sugar swings can influence how we feel. But across user communities, the people who do best tend to rely on a handful of simple habits that smooth the emotional curve. Staying hydrated, eating enough protein, getting consistent sleep, gentle daily movement, and importantly, not isolating during the adjustment phase. Many users say that things brighten considerably after the first few weeks as their routines stabilize and their bodies adjust to the new metabolic rhythm. And again, from my own experience, emotional effects have been quite minimal. Nothing disruptive, nothing concerning, and I suspect many people fall into the same category. It's just that we often hear the loudest stories online from the folks who actually struggle, not from the many who just feel fine. So the main takeaway here is simple. Emotional shifts can happen. They're usually quite mild. And support, even light support, can make a difference. Support from your friends, from your family. And now we turn to an important and very understandable question, one that we hear quite often. So what happens after I reach my weight goal? Clinical, this is an area where the science is developing quite quickly. But we don't have every answer yet. But we have several encouraging signals from early research and real-world experience. Now, there are a number of cohort studies and long-term follow-ups that are now examining how patients maintain their success after GLP therapy is reduced or even stopped. And these early findings suggest that a gradual dose reduction, or a slow taper, if you will, may support continued weight stability in a meaningful percentage of individuals. We also have emerging clinical guidance from obesity specialists who report that some of their patients in their care maintain extremely well on very low maintenance level doses, while others successfully transition off medication when they've already built strong nutritional and behavioral routines. And of course, we have anecdotal successes. These are real people that are tapering down thoughtfully, and they're pairing their process with stable routines and maintaining both their weight and their metabolic improvements. And the hopeful news is this: we're entering a new era of GLP therapy. Several next-generation medications are already in clinical trials, and this includes extended-release injectables, some combination therapies, and even infrequent oral GLP-1 agents that are designed specifically for long-term maintenance. But until the future arrives, here's what nearly all clinicians and successful patients agree on. Habits are the anchor. Let me repeat myself. Habits are the anchor. Consistent protein intake, hydration, regular movement, light strength training, stable sleep, predictable meal patterns. These are the behaviors that make long-term maintenance not only possible, but likely, regardless of dose adjustments or medication transitions over time. So I'm not a medical professional, but my own approach is to build these habits now while the medication gives me the metabolic space to make them stick. And with the pace of research and the medications on the horizon, there's every reason to feel optimistic about the long-term future of weight management and healthy aging. So as we wrap up the second half of the 10 things GLP-1 users wish they knew sooner, I want to leave you with something the medical community is saying loud and clear. GLP-1 medications do far more than suppress appetite or support weight loss. Clinically, we're seeing improvements in blood sugar regulation, blood pressure, systemic inflammation, lipid profiles, sleep apnea symptoms, or even joint pain. Across the board, the entire metabolic picture often shifts towards better health. And in real-world experience, thousands upon thousands of users describe better mobility, more energy, less pain, less fatigue, and a renewed sense of emotional clarity, a feeling of finally having control over their health again. And for many people, the benefits reach far beyond the scale. They show up in confidence, vitality, and the freedom to engage in life more fully and more joyfully. And I want to say this directly. If you have struggled with your weight, this is not your fault. Your body is fighting against you. GLP-1 medications, including tirzepatide and semaglutide, are helping millions reverse the dangerous effects of obesity, metabolic dysfunction, insulin resistance, and related chronic diseases. Yes, the early side effects, they're real. The adjustments are also real. The learning curve is real, but they're temporary and manageable. And they're nothing compared to the long-term gains of reclaiming your health and mobility, your energy, and your future. And if you're already on this journey, my friend, take heart. Your body is healing, your habits are strengthening, and your future is much brighter than you can even realize. And if you're still considering whether GLP medications might be right for you, talk to your healthcare provider, have a heart-to-heart with them, look at the evidence, listen to the stories of people who have found hope and lasting change. This journey is worth it, not just because of weight loss, but because of the health, the vitality, and the freedom that comes with it. So thank you, my friends, for spending this time with me in this two-part series. If you found it helpful, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who might benefit, who might need some encouragement. And until next time, stay well, stay curious, and stay encouraged. And I'll see you at the next episode.